This is Blind Metal Gamer, and you're watching the History of Mega Man Accessibility Part 1, the NES era. What's up, Blue Bomber fans? It's Blind Metal Gamer here with another Mega Man topic video. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the history of Mega Man on the NES. So, you're probably wondering, what inspired this video? Well, I was thinking about the accessibility of Mega Man as a whole, and I wanted to give a little history of this. So, in this video, part 1, the NES era, I'm going to discuss a brief history of the accessibility of the NES era Mega Man games. And as you can see, I am using the Mega Man Legacy Collection compilation, so the accessibility on these games was non-existent. You had no auto fire. There was just basic left to right navigation, so the navigational assistance pieces were not there yet. We're talking about 1987 to 1995 for the classic NES games. And as you can see there in that gameplay, you did see some strobing from a challenge warp point. In this series of games, the accessibility in video games was non-existent. So you didn't have things such as auto fire. You didn't have things such as safety for epileptics or those with epilepsy that want to play. You had a lot more of your basic 8-bit style tropes, which was side-to-side scrolling. And you would have a button for shooting and a button for jumping. That was about it. In this collection that you're seeing, there is auto fire. And then, unfortunately, in this part of the collection, part 1, which contains Mega Man's 1 through 6, the strobing and the flashing is very much present. And again, I realize that this is to emulate and faithfully recreate the experience of playing NES Mega Man on modern hardware. However, you know, given that we're talking about the history of accessibility on the NES, that, you know, maybe for modern times they could have changed this to have the option to not have the flash there, but I understand for the sake of preserving history. So in this era, you didn't have things such as, you know, warnings for seizures on video games. You didn't have things such as accessibility options and menus. You didn't have that. So when you bought the game, what you saw was what you got. And sometimes in the book, there would be a warning saying, you know, this game might have flashing lights or distribute patterns that couldn't do seizures. That was the only safety warning that you got. So anyone with epilepsy had to be very careful about that. And then, you know, again, there was no auto fire. So if you had issues with motor disabilities, you had to deal with, you know, having to press the button to fire. So if you couldn't push that button quickly, you couldn't do a rapid fire. Whereas with the collection that you're seeing here, you have the option for auto fire or triple burst, which when you start hitting an enemy, it will do an auto fire and just rain plasma mega buster based terror on your enemies until they die, and then it goes back to a triple burst. Now, for accessibility, this is great. Now, back in 1987, when Mega Man 1 first came out, this was not a prevalent thing. And then, in 1988, when Mega Man 2 was, or 1989 when Mega Man 2 was released, again, the same type of concept. It was on the NES. They had, again, there was no auto fire. The seizure flashing was a lot greater. It was a lot more increased in terms of the amount of strobing that would happen on screen. You had to worry about that. You had to deal with things that, you know, you don't have to deal with as much now. So you're probably wondering, Blind Metal Gamer, why does this have to do with Mega Man? Well, I feel like the Mega Man series could be improved as far as accessibility, and we're going to get to that in part 3 of the presentation. This is part 1 discussing the history on the NES. And again, like I said in part 1, you didn't have, or 2 or 3 for that matter, you didn't have any type of, or any of these NES games. There was no auto fire. The closest thing you got to auto fire didn't come until Mega Man 4. and that was the Mega Buster. That was something that happened, you know, that was supposed to make the game easier, but still the one thing that could have, if they were thinking of accessibility back in 1991, which again, the ADA had just been signed a year prior in 1990, and accessibility in gaming was not the way it is now back in 91. So, again, you didn't have those things. Now, in starting in Mega Man 3, as you can see here, the flashes or the strobing has been decreased, and that was because of the awareness of epileptic seizures and the cause of seizures being induced by video games. The cause of seizures being induced by video games. So, when the 1990 hit Mega Man 3 came out, they were more aware. So what they did was from 90 on to 93, when Mega Man 6 came out, whenever an enemy was hit, they wouldn't flash, they would just turn black. And just do a sprite flicker and not have them flash to reduce the risk of seizures in players, which is a good thing. Now, again, as far as accessibility, with this, you didn't have auto fire. Again, you're seeing play from the collection, the Legacy Collection on PS4, that's why you're seeing auto fire. And that was a great step. When I found out that this had auto fire and a rewind feature, yeah, sign me up, because I feel that these types of features are key for what I'll get to in part 3, the future of Mega Man's accessibility. And in the next video, we will go into the Super NES and the Mega Man remakes on the PS3 era and the PlayStation era Mega Man 8 in terms of accessibility, and how, you know, they improved in some ways and yet needed improvement in others. So this has been part 1, the NES era. Again, no accessibility to speak of, but from 1990 to 1993 they did consider the epilepsy risks and seizure risks and reduced the flashing on screen in Mega Man 3, 4, 5, and 6, while in Mega Man 1 and 2 there was increased flashing, which increased the risk of seizures and epileptics and stuff like that. So join me in part 2 of the history of Mega Man accessibility, where I cover Mega Man 7, 8, 9, and 10. Until then, so long everyone. Peace out, and as always, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below and share with everyone you know.